Well, hi, kids. Pastor Al here. Glad you could join me this morning on, well, what is Independence Day? The day that we celebrate our freedom. When we told the nation of Britain that used to own us a long time ago that we weren't happy about that and we were leaving. Anyways, that's not what I want to talk about today. I'm going to tell you a story today, a real story that happened to me. I've told it to you before in different ways, but it really fit my sermon today for the adults in church. And I always like to tie the two things together if I can, even if you're watching this at home and not at church on Sunday morning. I still do the children's sermon there. You may know that I have a big, fat, lovable dog called Hezekiah. He's a Labrador, a blonde lab. He's kind of a bonehead. Well, he's a big bonehead. You'll see why in a minute. And this is all about him. About 3 years ago, he was not feeling really good as we got into June. He kept throwing up and had tummy problems and wasn't eating, and we took him in and out of the vet. And they just thought he kind of had a sick tummy from eating too rich foods. And, well, I used to take him out for ice cream a lot, so that made sense. So then one day I took my two daughters and we went camping down in Oregon, and my wife Arta stayed home with Hezekiah. And he was getting more and more sick. So one night she took him into the vet as an emergency. And they said, your dog is really sick. We think there's something stuck in the stomach. And the only thing you can do is to jump in the car, drive to Issaquah, it's about 100 miles away, to an emergency vet and see if they can do anything for him. So that's just exactly what my wife did. She called me and told me. We broke our camp up on the side of Mount Hood and raced up to Issaquah to find when we got there that they had already examined him. They believe he had an obstruction in his stomach, and that was something that blocks the stomach and doesn't let stuff pass through. But he got very, very sick, and she said, he is one of the sickest dogs I've ever seen. We can try to do surgery on him to remove it, but I'm not at all sure he's going to survive. And so you need to make the decision whether you want to try. Now, the other thing when they tell you this is they give you a piece of paper that tells you what they think it's going to cost. And at that point, they thought it was going to cost around $5,000 for them to do the surgery. And of course, if he didn't survive the surgery, we'd still owe that anyways. It didn't take us long to figure out that we wanted to have them try. So after saying goodwill and praying for him, we went out and waited. They operated on him most of the night. We came back the next day, and he was groggy and sick and had all sorts of lines in him. And the doctor told us he didn't think she really wasn't sure if he would survive. So, hey there, Labrador dog. How are you? They dragged you in here today. Is that because you can't walk, or you're too lazy, or you have too many tubes? Your daddy does miss you. Look at all this stuff they have hooked up to you. My gosh. But he's a fighter, and we showed up and loved on him. And eventually he was able to stand up and walk. We were even able to take him outside. And eventually he came home. By the time everything was done, we had spent $8,000 on him. Now, here's what the point I want to make. He's a nice dog. But, I paid $800 for him. I could buy a brand new, perfectly healthy blonde Labrador puppy for $1,200. Why would I spend $8,000 on a dog that wasn't anywhere near worth $8,000? Well, he was worth $8,000 to me because I love him. He's my dog. And that's how we treat our animals here. No one else in the world would think he was worth $8,000. I couldn't sell him for that to anybody. I couldn't sell him for that for a whole lot less than that. But he was valuable to me because I loved him. And that's kind of our same story too. Why do your parents value you? I mean, there are millions and millions of kids in the world. Lots and lots of them don't have homes or parents. They could trade you in. But they won't because they love you. That's what makes us valuable, when somebody loves us. And when we read in the Bible about the love God had for us, it uses a special word called agape. And agape is a word that means love that creates value in something. we're loved by God, and that means that we're valuable to God. Really, because we're loved by God, we're valuable to the world. So whenever you think maybe you're not worth a whole lot, maybe your life isn't important, remember, you have an amazing value. And that value is given to you not because the world tells you it does, not because you're pretty or smart or handsome or good at sports or whatever. You're valuable because God loves you. And God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for you, to show you how much you mean and value to him. For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son so that we might have life in him. So whenever you start thinking about the fact that you're not worth much, understand that you're worth a lot because God thinks you're worth a lot. Thanks, everybody, for joining me this morning. Have a wonderful Independence Day holiday. Bye.